Carriage and Insurance Paid To (CIP) is an international commercial term or Incoterm which was set out by the International Chamber of Commerce in their Incoterms 2010 guide with the aim of standardizing shipping term and defining all the responsibility between buyers and sellers. In CIP, the seller assumes all risks until the goods are delivered to the first carrier at the place of shipment, not the place of destination. Once the goods are delivered to the first carrier, the buyer is responsible for all risks. However, the seller is responsible for the cost of carriage as well as all risk insurance coverage until the freight reach the named place of destination.
Okay, first, seller obligation goods, commercial invoice and documentation, export packaging and marking, export licenses and custom formalities, pre-carriage and delivery, loading charge, cost of delivery at named place of destination, proof of delivery, cost of pre-shipment, inspection, all risks, payment goods as specified in sales contract, import formalities and duties, cost of import clearance, pre-shipment inspection.
Liability shift from the seller to the buyer as soon as the goods are delivered to the carrier. For an example, loaded onto the ship at the port of the seller's country, the liability and the risk of these goods is transferred over the buyer. The agreed transportation point of the goods can be at port, terminal or goods loading point, providing it within the home country of the seller. Under CIP, the seller is responsible for providing insurance of the goods when they are shipped. As with free carrier, the seller is also responsible for clearing the goods for export at the port or terminal. CIP is common for large importers who have their own port agents that can manage the delivery of goods when they arrive in their country. However, the risk of the seller pass on the buyer once the goods leave their country or port, despite the seller paying for the transport of the goods. The buyer is then responsible for everything else, such as unloading the goods at the buyer port or terminal, transporting the goods to the end destination or warehouse.
So, what is the advantages and disadvantages of the chip? In chip term, the buyer will enjoy the benefit of insurance cover that is obliged by the seller, but need to know that the seller only obliged the minimum insurance coverage. So, the buyer can add any additional insurance to cover the risk of the carriage with an extra cost. Okay, for the next one, because the chip will be used in all of mode of transportation. For example, the movement that will be involved in road, rail and sea movement. In chip, once the seller hands over the goods to the road carrier, the risk will be transferred from the seller to the buyer, but the cost will still remain on the seller.